Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for my rational perspective on Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. The unbeaten run continues under Graham Potter, the clean sheet run continues under Graham Potter, but unfortunately the winning run comes to an end. And I think it was a fair result in the context of the game. Frustration and some concerns, particularly from the Aston Villa game, that kind of continued in this one. But I do think there were some positives. I think some of the players that did come in and even some of the players that did come off the bench, I think impacted things positively. But it is a missed opportunity when you look at the fact that Man United and Tottenham are playing each other. It's a game against a team not of, say, the top six. So when Chelsea don't pick up points, I think there's always going to be an annoyance, obviously. But I also think there's a context of Brentford. I said this in my preview. They are a very well-coached side. They remind me a lot of, say, like a Blackburn away in the sort of the mid-noughties, where they're not only a team that I think tactically can play against you and play some good stuff and defend well and defend diligently, but also can fight you as well. I've got that sort of aggression and intangible side, and we saw that. Like, there were last-ditch challenges. I think even Pennick really earned his money in the second half. I think the way they were just able to stop Chelsea and for large periods of the game keep them at an arm's length and also press Chelsea back. I think they did that really effectively at the beginnings of both halves. I think Chelsea grew in confidence in the second periods of both halves, enough where we could create some opportunities. And there absolutely are some moments throughout the game where you look at and go, it mostly was the case of a player maybe squaring the ball across the box, or maybe a better finish, better decision making. Listen, it's one of the more disappointing performances. I'd say it was actually a slightly better all-round performance than the one we saw on Sunday, which is weird because we won 2-0, but that's kind of football, isn't it? The rotations continued with Graham Potter. They did, as expected. 5 changes, not as much as, say, the Wolves game, but Azpilicueta, Gallagher, Koulibaly, Jorginho and Broja coming in for Thiago Silva, Ben Chilwell, Mateo Kovacic, Raheem Sterling and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. One of those changes had to be sort of reversed 15 minutes into the game with Conor Gallagher coming off injured. I haven't listened to Graham Potter's post-match interview. It seemed really innocuous, like it was... He just, it was sort of, I think, almost a ball that hit his knee, and then he landed and then he walked off the pitch. And we'll have to see if Gallagher, it'd be horrible for him because it was a great chance to start tonight, and some of that energy and enthusiasm we wanted and quality from Gallagher, we didn't get to see tonight, and actually was just an experiment that kind of ended. One of the big experiments of tonight was seeing Broja start. I think overall very positive and very encouraging. I think there is one big moment where he should square the ball to Mason Mount, absolutely. But I think there was such evidence in that performance from Broja of why there is so much to be infused by with his game and what he could become at Chelsea. I felt what helped Chelsea was Brentford were really pressing up to us. And I think once we realised that if we could spring quite quickly and hit a direct ball towards Broja, who was always going to make that run in behind, he had the beating of Ben Mee, and he did it dramatically in one occasion. As I say, that probably should have been the winner if he'd had more intelligence to sort of square it. And there are raw parts of Amanda Broja's game that absolutely still need work and still need sort of improvement. I think he, in some parts of the game, he's maybe a little bit one-eyed and sort of maybe looking up a little bit more. You expect a more experienced player. There was one moment in the second half where he makes a really good move, gets into a good position, but is kind of just hesitant to kind of use his left foot to cross the ball across the box, and maybe there could have been a chance for a goal there. But considering this is his first start for Chelsea, his first proper start for Chelsea, I think his aggression on and off the ball, his movement, his ability to kind of just fearlessness and kind of just leaving a mark on the game. And I think it was unfortunate he was taken off when he did, because I don't think he deserves to be taken off, considering, say, the performance of Kai Havertz, which again was another really forgettable one. We have to speak about him once again. Man of the match for Chelsea, and the commentary team gave him man of the match. KEPA Arrizabalaga. I don't think it's a real positive if Chelsea continually have their goalkeeper be man of the match. It doesn't say a lot about the performances, but we knew we'd come under the cosh. Particularly with Thiago Silva not playing, I think it was a smart move to rest him tonight. I really do. And listen, it's not a win, but it's another clean sheet. But he made some big saves from Ivan Toney in the first half, close range. There were chances where, particularly with the amount of set pieces that come into the box, and that's been a fragility for Kepa over the years. How he still, I think there are always going to be parts where you're not quite sure about Kepa because he's not the most physically imposing goalkeeper, But effective-wise, take out the aesthetics, he is doing things that are making a big impact for Chelsea. And he just seems more confident. The one-on-one with Tony late on in that game, a very confident striker, he wins that battle. And consistently now, he looks like a player that is just growing in more and more confidence. So for him tonight, despite not getting the 3 points, that's another big step, I think, for him personally, in a game where that had sort of all the tools with Brentford, with what they offer. Long throw-ins, set pieces, physicality, direct balls into the box. There were all sort of the ingredients there to really test out Kepa's flaws in the past and to see where he's made the progression to now. But as I say, there was not a lot until, I think, for me, like to really get excited about from a Chelsea perspective, other than Broja, till the second half when we saw Carney Chukwuemeka and Christian Pulisic and then Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang come on. I think those are the 3 out of the 5 subs that came on that I think really impressed me. Chukwuemeka, seeing him get a pretty decent, I think 25-30 minutes was really nice to see. And I think some of his nice footwork, the way he was really able to change the pace of the game, make some nice late runs into the box, almost scored the winner, and David Raya sort of got a good save to it in the end to stop Chelsea winning that game. But for him, I think that's really exciting to see that Potter in that moment, when he could have gone for another player, could have gone for Dennis Okara, of course, he goes for Carney Chukwuemeka, and I think that's a really exciting thing to see in a game of this nature, where it's not, say, a League Cup game and it's not Chelsea 3 or 4-0 up where you can just bring him on for the final 10 minutes, which we saw against Wolves. It really is, I think, a sign of maybe trust in Chukwuemeka, and I think you have to be infused by what you're seeing from a player who I think turns 19 tomorrow. Christian Pulisic, I think, looked really bright, and I think was really doing things that was really changing the tempo of Chelsea's game. I think it was a little bit one-paced at times, particularly with the way Brentford was set up so well and tried to stifle Chelsea, a lot of bodies to get through. Pulisic maybe tonight wasn't doing those things that you sort of look at him and say that those are his best attributes in terms of being in the box, anticipating where the ball was. More the case, he was actually getting the ball and trying to make something happen, which I think you can criticise Pulisic at times of. He can sometimes be a little bit wasteful with the ball, but he was really trying to do nice 1-2s, then make a late run into the box. I think he was another one of those players that came away with, I think, some confidence tonight, hopefully, because he hasn't played a lot of football for Chelsea this season. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, some wonderful first time flicks and touches into the feet of say Raheem Sterling. He nearly sets up a Sterling winner, and you just felt with Aubameyang, I would have liked to have seen Aubameyang and Broja on the same pitch personally. I don't know if any of you guys did, let me know in the comments. But he, again, I think he's just right. Listen, everyone will turn around and go, he didn't score, but he looks sharp. I think he looks in the game. I think he's getting more confidence, and I think we'll probably start the game against Man United on Saturday. Raheem Sterling, I think as we got into those closing moments and Brentford were very much sitting back, I think him as a wing back works a lot better when Chelsea are quite obviously dominant. So then he kind of just playing as a winger. When Chelsea are not as dominant in a game, as we saw against Aston Villa and as we saw in the first little period when Sterling came on, I'm not quite sure the wing back experiment is as impactful, because I don't think he's as good defensively. And I think maybe he can just get lost in the game a little bit, because you really want him getting on that ball, sort of cutting onto his right. But that kind of happened as the game went on. There were moments in the first half where Kepa had to bail us out, and I don't think we were very good in sort of judging the sort of the height of a cross. There are many times when players were unmarked. You can go back in the game and say, and there was one for Mbeumo in the second half, which was probably the best chance of the game for either side, which again was saved by Kepa, and it was more just a bad miss. I think he should have been scoring that. You look at those moments and say, listen, defensively, we're not at our best there. But, at the end of the day, people will look at the result and say, clean sheet, confidence for those players coming out of the game. It's a knockback because it has been win-win-win recently, and you want to see that continue. And we do go into the game against Man United. It would have been really nice to go into that game with another win, being on that winning run. But I'm intrigued to see what he does with the team on Saturday, because he's doing a lot of rotating, which he kind of has to, but I just wonder, with some players showing nice cameos, is that going to kind of filter into the team? Is there going to be kind of a bit of a meritocracy where you feel like a player plays well and then gets the opportunity after that? We haven't really seen too much of that under Potter so far. Listen, we've been getting results and getting pretty decent performances so far. I just think that interesting to see man management-wise how he deals with that with a player like Broja, with a player particularly like Christian Pulisic, who you'd say, out of the little bits we've seen on Graham Potter, particularly the Wolves game and today, there's a little bit more there, and you're like comparing him to say Raheem Sterling at the moment, or other players, Kai Havertz in the attacking area of the pitch, and saying, should Pulisic be starting on Saturday? So Those are some thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.